So for any triangle, we have these two angles A and B that are not the right angle. And so for each of these angles, we have these 6 trigonometric functions for each of those angles: the sine, the cosine, the tangent, the cotangent, the secant, and the cosecant. And so we want to take a look at some of these. The sine of A is A over C, and the cosecant of A is C over A. And so notice that they're reciprocals of one another. The sine and the cosecant are reciprocals. Same is true for cosine and secant. The cosine of A is B over C. The secant of A is C over B. So they are reciprocals also. And the tangent and the cotangent are also reciprocals. And so I also want to point out that the sine of one of the angles, like A, for example, and the cosine of the other angle are equal. They're both A over C. And so the sine of B and the cosine of A are both B over C. Right? The sine of one angle is equal to the cosine of the other. Same is true for tangent and cotangent for each of the angles, and also for secant and cosecant. Right? They are equal to one another. And so, since sine and cosecant are reciprocals of one another, and cosine and secant are reciprocals of one another, and tangent and cotangent are reciprocals of one another, if you focus on trying to memorize the sine, the cosine, and the tangent, that's opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, and opposite over adjacent, and then you remember that the reciprocals are the cotangent, the secant, and the cosecant, and of course you remember which one corresponds to which, you'll have a much easier time of remembering this. So we really just want to focus on these 3, and there's a little mnemonic here. This is that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, that's so. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, that's ca. And tangent is opposite over adjacent, that's toa. And so if you remember so, ca, toa, you'll remember the ratios of the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. And then again, you'll want to remember their reciprocals.